Speaker for tonight, who spoke on Saturday, had us in tears, and she's going to share her story again about it's very inspiring. She talks about how she has went from zero confidence to doing this all while juggling health and everything in between. So I would love, love, love the most beautiful Sarah Bogg to unmute and please share with us all about her story.
Wait, why is it I'm more nervous to do this when I can't see anyone instead of like Saturday? That's absolutely crazy. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So we'll start with one thing. And when I ask it, if it's affected you, give us a thumbs up or like, I don't know, some sort of emoji. So have you ever had a moment where your entire life changed and nobody asked your permission first? It might have been a diagnosis, a heartbreak, a redundancy, and maybe it was losing a loved one. Or maybe it was simply waking up one morning and realizing life wasn't going to go the way you'd planned. One moment everything feels familiar, and the next you're standing at the beginning of a journey you never chose. I know that feeling. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sarah. I'm 41. I'm a mum, a wife, and a business owner, and my passion is helping people realize they're capable of far more than they ever believed possible. But if you'd have met me 5 years ago, you probably wouldn't have imagined me being on this stage or on this chat because I certainly didn't have that on my vision board. But over the last few years, life has asked more of me than I ever thought I could give. I've had to rebuild more than once, not because I chose to, but because life kept planning a new horizon, a new challenge, a new obstacle, a new chapter I never saw coming. And every single one arrived without warning. So just go back a little bit. So October 21, everything changed. Following birth trauma from an extremely difficult pregnancy, I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, chronic pain, and spinal osteoarthritis. One day I was planning my future, and the next I was learning to live in a body I no longer recognized, all while battling postnatal depression, PTSD, and having intense therapy just to get through a day. People often think pain is just pain. It really isn't. Chronic pain steals so much more, your energy, your confidence, and your independence. Some mornings I wake up and my body's already exhausted before I've even touched the floor. That literally was today from one day of trying to live my life by being with amazing people in Birmingham. As a business owner, that terrified me at the start. How do you build a business when your own body feels like it's working against you? So, for a long time, I believed I simply had to work harder to prove I wasn't broken. And in truth, for nearly 2.5 years, I was in one of the darkest places of my life. My business survived, but only just. And I was just only just surviving too, grieving the life that I had lost. Until one day something clicked and I stopped wishing my circumstances were different. And and I started asking, how can I make this work? Because success isn't about having the perfect circumstances. It's about learning to grow, adapt, and keep moving forward with what you've got. Fibromyalgia forced me to create boundaries. It forced me to prioritize, and it taught me that productivity isn't about doing more. It's about doing what matters. Now, ironically, living with chronic pain has made me a far better business owner because I stopped trying to do everything and started focusing on doing the right things. Sorry, my voice keeps going. So eventually, the darkness began to lift. I started feeling like a new version of myself. My confidence slowly returned. I started believing there might actually be a future worth looking forward to. And then life changed again. In January last year, I was rushed into hospital. After multiple tests, scans, x-rays, a hospital transfer, it was confirmed I had sepsis, E. coli in my bloodstream, a severe kidney infection, and dehydration. I was extremely poorly, and once again, I took a battering not only to my confidence, but my business too. Something that worried me was my business dipping again because of something out of my control. In February 25 last year, I made one of the hardest business decisions of my life. After 7 years of building a business I loved, I chose to walk away. Not because I'd failed, not because I stopped believing in myself, but because I'd realized I'd outgrown the path I was on. And sometimes holding on to what's familiar can stop us from stepping into what's possible. So I took a leap of faith. And on the 1st of March, Fiercely Empowered was born, and I began my journey with pharmacy. The choice was more health-based, as the products I'd started using were helping me after being in hospital in January. So I thought I would create a business from it too. Starting again was scary. I had to rebuild my confidence, my customer base, and my business from the ground up. But glancing back, I can see that walking away wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of the business and the person I always meant to become. Until this point, life had chosen my horizons. This was the first time I had chosen one for myself. Looking back now, the leap was a leap of faith was one of the best decisions I ever made. The first 6 months of pharmacy were an absolute whirlwind. I didn't just meet personal goals, I exceeded every expectation I had for myself. I had the privilege of attending the UK's very first anniversary conference and the incentive trip to Turkey, where I stayed at the beautiful pharmacy residence and was recognised for my resilience with an invitation to the UK warehouse tour and a professional brand shoot. And yes, there was tapas and cocktails along the way too. But here's the thing, those weren't the achievements I was most proud of. The greatest achievement was having the courage to start again, because none of those opportunities would have happened if I'd have stayed where I simply felt I was comfortable. Sometimes the biggest risk isn't starting over, it's staying where you've already outgrown. Several months earlier, I'd walked away from a business I'd spent 7 years building. But if I'd let that fear make the decision, none of this would have happened. Sorry. Returning from the incentive trip to Turkey on the 27th of June, I honestly felt on top of the world. I just spent an incredible few days at pharmacy's headquarters. I stayed at Pharmacity, toured the factory, seen the passion and the vision behind 75 years of a 75-year strong company, made friendships I'll treasure forever, and created memories I never thought I'd have. There was one moment that will stay with me forever, a cheeky little moment to myself, selfie stick in hand. I walked across the auditorium stage in the main pharmacy building, and I remember quietly saying to myself, one day this will be me on that stage receiving recognition or giving a talk, just like I did on Saturday and right now too. At that moment, it felt like anything was possible. If you'd have asked me how I felt before the trip, I would have probably said a 2 out of 10. But when I came home, it was off the scale. Something in me had shifted. For the first time in a very long time, I wasn't just surviving, I was excited about my future. And I truly believed that my time had come. Then, 10 days later, on the 7th of July, life threw another curveball. Well, actually, two. I broke my foot. And because, as you've probably realised by now, I don't do anything by halves. 4 days later, suddenly lost sight in my right eye. Nothing prepares you for hearing that something is seriously wrong with your vision. At first, I convinced myself it was the stress from breaking my foot. Exhausted, no sleep. So I carried on and told myself it would settle down. But it didn't. A few days later, I was sent to A&E. That led to more tests, A referral to another hospital, more scans, more waiting, and eventually eye surgery. The consultants explained that there were no guarantees. The surgery might restore my vision or it might not. But the reality was, my eyesight wasn't working anyway, so it was absolutely worth taking the risk. I remember laying there thinking, what if this is permanent? There's a word you never imagine asking yourself. Almost overnight, my world changed. I lost my depth perception. Walking felt different. Making a brew was hard. But even reading a bedtime story became impossible because I couldn't focus on the words with my good eye. And little by little, my confidence started disappearing again too. 13 weeks later, I was told the news I'd been dreading, that the sight in my right eye wasn't coming back. And for a short while, fear became louder than hope. Once again, I worried about my future, my family, my business, everything I'd just worked so hard to rebuild in the last 3 years when my life took its turn then. But very quickly, I realised I had another choice to make. I could spend the rest of my life focusing on everything I'd lost, or I could start appreciating everything I still had. I knew my decision instantly. I wasn't going in that hole again because although I'd lost my sight in one eye, I hadn't lost the vision for my future. And that's a very different thing. That experience changed my perspective forever. Sometimes we become so focused on what life has taken away that we stop seeing everything that's still possible. In this time, there are a few other things happening too. Perimenopause for one, and awaiting an ADHD diagnosis for another. Let's just say life has become wonderfully yet unofficially neurospicy. Sometimes I laugh, just like now, because if I didn't, I'd probably cry. But it also has helped me understand myself in a way I never have before. And instead of asking, what's wrong with me? I've started asking, how can I work with the way I'm wired? That small shift changes everything. Then came one of the biggest decisions of my life. After struggling with my weight for my whole life, I chose to have bariatric surgery. People often say that's an easy option. Trust me, it's not. There was four of us in that room on Saturday that have all had bariatric surgery, and all four of us have had different outcomes and different experiences. Surgery doesn't fix your mindset. It doesn't magically create confidence. It doesn't suddenly teach you to love yourself. That work still has to come from within here. What surgery gave me was an opportunity to put my health first, to choose a different future, and to give myself the chance to live the life I'd spent years dreaming about. The weight I've lost in almost 17 weeks has been incredible, but the biggest transformation hasn't been on the scales. It's happened up here. I've realised I was always worthy. I was always capable. I was always enough. I just needed to believe that myself. So, what happened to my business? I'm a huge believer in you get out what you put in. So, obviously, it slowed down, but it's still going. And as I slowly shrink within my body, my business is slowly growing in size. And that's because I never gave up. People often ask me, how have you kept going? The honest answer is there were times I nearly didn't. My business slipped away after my diagnosis in 2021. I simply didn't have anything left to give after several years in survival mode. And then the hospital stay in January was just too much. But this time I promised myself, whatever happened next, I would never allow another setback to take away my future. I wouldn't let it destroy something I'd worked hard to build. That promise led me to a completely fresh start. A new opportunity, a new business, a new horizon. Was it scary? Absolutely. But by then I'd realised that's had something. Perfect time, it doesn't exist. Life doesn't pause while we recover. Sometimes we have to rebuild anyway. Sometimes we build while we're grieving, while we're healing, while we're scared, while we're adapting to an entirely different version of ourselves. And that's exactly what I did. None of these experiences were part of my plan. If I'd allowed every setback to become my excuse, I wouldn't be sitting here today. And because here's what I've learned: challenges don't have to stop you or your business. Sometimes they become the very thing that grows it. Every obstacle made me more resilient. Every setback made me more resourceful. Every difficult season taught me that something that success never could. And every new horizon shaped the person I needed to become. So when I look back now, I realize that fibromyalgia taught me resilience. Waiting for an ADHD diagnosis is teaching me to embrace how my brain works. Losing my sight taught me perspective. Weight loss surgery taught me courage. Hospital admissions taught me that tomorrow isn't guaranteed, and business taught me this: success isn't about having the perfect circumstances. It's about refusing to stop. Life will change, probably more than once, sometimes gently, sometimes brutally, and sometimes without ever asking you permission, because it certainly didn't ask me for mine. But every single one of us gets a choice. We can spend our lives asking, why is this happening to me? Or we can start asking, what is this teaching me? Because that one question changed absolutely everything for me. It stopped me seeing obstacles as roadblocks and started me seeing them as opportunities to grow, to become stronger, to become more resilient, to build a business that wasn't dependent on perfect circumstances, but on the person that I was becoming. I'm often asked how I've managed to keep my business going through everything life has thrown at me. The honest truth: I just stopped waiting for life to get easy. Instead, I decided to just become stronger, and that's when I realized something. Sometimes you don't get to choose the horizon you're heading towards, but you always get to choose how you walk towards it. New horizons are frightening. They're uncertain, they're uncomfortable, but they're also where growth lives, where resilience is built, they're where courage is discovered, and often they're where the next version of you is waiting. So, whatever horizon you're standing in front of today, whether it's in your business, your health, your family, or somewhere deep inside you, don't wait until you feel ready. Don't wait until life becomes easier. Take the next step anyway, because every challenge I thought would end my story simply became a new horizon. And maybe, just maybe, the horizon that you're standing in front of today isn't there to stop you. Maybe it's there to show you just how far you're capable of going. Here's a quote that I wrote myself. I am a poetry writer, so things like this quite often just fall out of my mouth. I have this displayed in my office, literally there. I see it every day. And it's my daily reminder of exactly how far I have come and to never give up. And it simply says, how can I exist in a world when all these opportunities keep coming? My disabilities don't define me, they push me to grow. At the beginning of this talk, I asked you if you'd ever had a moment where your life changed and nobody asked your permission first. Now I'd like to ask you something else. What if that moment wasn't the end of your story? What if that was the beginning of your new horizon? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing. There's not a dry eye in this Zoom room. Thank you so much. I cried like I did on Saturday.
I didn't
Just
even look at the screen, I dare.
but we wanted you to come and share that because there is so many of us in this community that have a disability, whether that be physical, we have mental health problems, we have things going on in our life that is starting to take over. And we wanted just to give a bit of inspiration that it's okay if these things are going on. It's okay if you can't walk one day or you can't talk the next or you just can't get out of bed because things are just too much. That this community is always here for you and that you can do anything that you put your mind to because, you know, you're here and you said yes. So thank you so much for sharing again. And I hope that just inspires so many of you to just keep going, keep pushing, and, you know, run towards that 18% because you all deserve to be on that Pharmacity trip with us. And yeah, you're just amazing, Sarah. Thank you so much for sharing. I think we can all agree. Um, Has anybody got any questions? I know that we've went a wee bit over our time because we were all excited at the start. But if anybody's got any questions, please pop them in the comments. Otherwise, I know I'm going to start singing again because I can't get my words out. Otherwise, please reach out to our uplines, and we are happy to help make a plan for Pharmacity.
Can I say
So,
one thing, Tasha?
yeah.
I just want to say how motivating and inspirational that was, Sarah. Like, that was, I'm so proud of you. So proud of you. And you're such an inspiration to so many people. And I just wanted to tell you that.
Amazing. Thank you, Amber. I know Sarah will appreciate that. Especially when she's speaking on stage again this weekend. So she'll really appreciate that.
I second Amber. I am sitting in my bedroom, you guys, crying. I had to remove myself from everybody around me because that hit my heart like no other. I needed that so much. Beautiful testimony. Thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing some real deep stuff because I relate with you a lot on a lot of things you said. And what you just did is you sparked something in my heart that I don't know you, but I would love to hug you someday. So thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she is a hugger, so if you do get to see her, she will hug. We hug a lot in this community, I think. But yeah, totally inspirational, mind blowing, and I'm so proud of you, Sarah. I know that we all are, especially after Saturday. So please, guys, reach out to us before the first so we can get a plan in place. Don't be frightened about running for this big hairy ass goal of 18%. You can do it. And if anything, think about Sarah last year with everything that she's going on and hitting 18% and getting to Pharmacity. So you guys can do it. So thank you so much, guys. Thanks for joining. Bye.